And I just want to call a spade here, because the solicitor ruled a week or 2 weeks ago at our last meeting that it's his view that the financial town meeting can break the cap without anything else. They can just do it. So to call a spade by making this available with town resources, okay, to make this available, knowing the solicitor's opinion about breaking the cap, regardless of 4/5 votes and whatnot that he testified to, this is essentially creating a situation where the skids are greased to break the cap.
You're going to get us back to Liz Nurse, aren't you?
And the other concern is that we had set out at the last meeting, and it's part of the agenda tonight, to come up with a resolution that would set out the steps that the average taxpayer could look at and have an understanding of what the steps were if we would have ever exceed the cap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We seem to be totally ignoring that with this standby motion. If somebody were to take a look at this, if I were to give this to the average citizen, the average person sitting out here right now, and tell him, now you tell me what steps we took to get through this process and to reach the point where it's resolved that the excess levy due to a loss in total non-tax revenues is hereby approved. What steps did we take to get to this point? I don't think anybody here could figure out how we did it. I'd like to have a resolution, first of all, to have an understanding, at least for the town, as to what the process is, so the typical citizen in Tiverton has an idea of what the heck they're doing, and it's a little bit more transparent than putting a standby motion together.
I don't see this as being exclusive of any resolution. This was really to be placed in the docket. The Budget Committee's recommendations are so drastic. And Jeff, we're calling a spade a spade. And if you want to call it a spade, I'm prepared to address that. You have wiped out and taken this town back 25 years. You've taken us out of the league. You've taken us out of the chamber. You've cut the planner back by a half-time. You've taken all the service groups and taken those out from any appropriation and support by this town. I don't know what will happen to the financial town meeting, but I think there's going to be a number of people who are there and who are going to be voting their consciences. And I don't know how that will turn out, but I have no doubt that is going to happen. All this is, as I understand it, and I had seen it when the rest of you saw it, was if that occurs, because the cap is set so low because of the loss of revenue, and if that is the holy grail that the Budget Committee is following, your cuts are so extreme. $1 to the school department. Let's cut the Economic Development Commission back. I mean, the things that have occurred in your thinking are going to incite people. And I don't care how you cut it.
I'd just like to speak that if the council's budget, if the town municipal budget were level funded, okay, then, and if the school budget were level funded, then you approximately come in at the cap. The budgets presented to us on the municipal side were roughly 300 or 400K over that amount, okay? So we were that much up over the cap. I don't know, I don't really fully understand how that could happen. The town budget was level funded for 2 years, and all of a sudden this year it's up 4 or 5%, and it's a tough year. Had the budget presented to the Budget Committee been at approximately level funded, then we would be under the cap. The actions that I've seen in my observation of the Budget Committee is that it's a goal to get under the cap. As Mr. Boland pointed out, the amount of aid is unknown at this time, and it's been assumed to be 0, which is the governor's recommendation, and these are the numbers. So I take issue with some of your statements because the seems like the overriding goal is to get this thing under the cap.
Jeff, the cap is so low because of the loss of the revenue let's just explain that to people out there. In order to get to the levy, you take your budget, you take your revenues, you take your motor vehicle tax, which is of course computed as part of the cap, to get to the actual real estate levy. When your revenues go down, and you have not even made an estimate that some of that car tax may come back to us. No, because it serves...
Those are your estimates. You just delivered those revenues to the Budget Committee tonight.
That is no question about that, and that is why we have asked to defer, or will be asking to defer the meeting. Frankly, your goal in the Budget Committee is to use these economic loss of revenue to reach a goal to dismantle this town.
Oh.
And that is exactly what it is.
Okay, I just want to say that in order to restore those things, we would be, if we had approved the budget that was submitted to us, we would be 400K over the cap, and we would be going for a waiver, and so on and so forth. So, Ms. Durfee, when you say that the situation is as it is, you must realize that you're also saying that we need to break the cap in order to not do this. I mean, it goes hand in hand. You can't say one thing without the other.
Hold on, mister. One of the things I put on this council tonight was to defer the meeting so that if we're going to argue about, we at least argue about the facts and what the revenue really is. You can't deny that. That was something that I really proposed to this town.
And did I oppose it?
I didn't hear
It's
it.
not even your position.
First of all,
Why should you beat me up over it?
tonight is not the night to argue what will be the arguments on the floor of the financial town meeting. And these are the arguments that are going to come up. These are just different positions that different groups are taking on where we're going to go. And that's where those are going to get discussed. The Budget Committee has a job to do. We have a job to do. We're going to do our job. The Budget Committee is going to do their job. And hopefully we're going to get to a financial town meeting with some sets of numbers. And we're going to make presentations and we're going to make explanations of why we feel, or each person can make those same recommendations of why they feel strongly about why something should or should not be part of those numbers that are being presented. I mean, you know, we just voted this evening to send to the Budget Committee that fact of the $411,000 over the level funding, which is just extraordinary, or items that have increased. So level funding, all of the numbers, we still had that $411,000 increase. The Budget Committee thinks they have found a way to bring that budget down to the 4.5% by whatever cuts they want to make, and then the people at the financial town meeting are going to have the final say as to whether or not those numbers are going to stand or they're not going to stand. That's what's going to happen.
All the more reason why we do need a standby motion.
No, whether that be a standby motion, whether it's printed, whether it's part of the docket, whether it's handed out somewhere later in the docket, I think it's totally irrelevant, and I think we're arguing about something that...
I'm not so sure, Don, it's irrelevant. Well, this will just take a second. I decided to run for town council 2 years ago, and I'm not opening up old arguments, but I'll tell you the reason I decided to run. I went to the financial town meeting 2 meetings ago, and you know what happened. And I said, you know, there's something wrong with the system. I think I'm reasonably intelligent. I try to follow the news. I try to read the material, but I'm getting concerned with the financial town meeting. And when I was finished with that whole process, my thought was, you just seem to be making up the rules as we're going along. Nobody had any idea what was happening. And then you know that that's true. So my first effort here, that's what I've been concentrating on. You know, if we're going to surprise, if we are going to impose a tax, a levy on people that's in excess of the cap, or whether it's below the cap, whatever it is, I'd like to at least make sure that the process is understood. I don't think that people are not asking for too much.